Hello. And if you are just now tuning in, we already listened to Jesse and Kay's song. Kay is busy doing all this. So if you'd like to hear their songs, do check them out. And now we've made it to mine. Okay. Well, there's not a whole lot to introduce for Nick Weber, the artist that I'll be sharing with you today, because there's not a whole lot out there about Nick Weber, at least not from what I could uncover. And it definitely wasn't for a lack of trying. My search did lead me to a Nicholas Weber, who was a bit more out there themselves, which coincidentally got me really interested in their music and related projects. So thank you, Nick, for exposing me to them, which I probably wouldn't have otherwise. I did contemplate reaching out to Nick on their Bandcamp, but ultimately decided not to. I really didn't want to bother them out of the blue, and I also wanted to keep a bit of mystique about the music as well. So, Nick, if you're watching or listening, hi, hello. I hope you're doing well. Thank you for sharing your music, and I hope you're okay with the liberty I took to let the music speak for itself this go around, as I felt it more fitting to present the audience all the nothing that I know. Nick Weber is a musician, an artist, even a person. I find a hard time believing otherwise after listening to this debut album, at least debut for this project or that we know of. I always got the feeling that we can't always take things by their appearances. So at least this is the debut album for Nick that I'm aware of. It was released on March 7th this year, which I took to work with me the day after, and its atmosphere has been on my mind constantly ever since. The year has just started, and I'm already quite convinced that this will be one of my, if not favorite, discoveries of the year. The album feels like a sojourn into places I've never been to, but are so richly retold through words and sounds that I feel like I'm able to temporarily exist in these places and memories and emotions that Nick takes us from one stop to the next. Accompanying us on this journey are things you'd be no stranger to when it comes to folk music. So you'll encounter things like the pluck of a guitar, the swaying slides of pedal steel, gentle murmurs, not of accented sleep, but gentle murmurs of piano, or the solid foundations of a bass guitar. However, this is much more than just a typical folk affair, as it's more than just the parts that make the music, and rather how Nick paints these emotional landscapes and monuments for us to visit as the space of looming darkness, uncertainty, and the eventuality of elucidation creates this distinct atmosphere like a personal bubble on the verge of bursting that I have not been able to get out of my mind ever since my first visit. While I've had some ideas in my head that congeal my interpretations of these sounds into something to give others a reference point to what kind of music this is, I won't attempt that and instead let Nick's own words do that. He described his music as post-folk suburban psalms. And this collection of his brand of post folk suburban psalms were written and recorded mostly in his bedroom in Colorado in the span of 6 or so months from the autumn of 2021 and through the ensuing winter. The purpose? Nick states simply this album is a document of a few years in limbo. It's quite a lot of time to compact into just a brief window of writing and recording. I'm curious to hear if you out there can feel this in the music or what hints of post folk suburban psalms you get from it. Without further ado, we'll tread into Nick's world and his song Ghost Variations. Enjoy.
God, I've forgotten how to pray. I don't know how to talk to you. And at the end of the day, here goes nothing. How am I supposed to love you? A plead, seeking, knocking, somehow still I never find. The candle flickered out, the shadows grew. I fell into the empty tomb of all I thought I knew. Did I ever hear a word? I know that I am just some kid picking up shells on the shore of your ocean. I hold each one to my ear and listen closely for a sign of your devotion. But I still haven't heard of. How am I supposed to love you? I plead, seek, and knock, and somehow still I never find. The candle flickered out, the shadows grew. I'm running through your garden, screaming, where the hell are you? Did you ever hear a word? Weeping, trembling, people say speak. Do you have something you would like to say to me? Read your black book, some words stripped with red. Maybe I mistook you for someone in my head. Maybe it's a demon, or maybe it's my mind. Maybe it's both at the same time. It might be, the shrieks of sorrow. So many voices, which one do I trust the How am I supposed to love you? How am I supposed to love you? How am I supposed to love you? Did you ever hear a word?
Well, did any of you ever hear a word?
One or two in that song.
At least two, maybe even
Yeah.
three.
Yeah, I think where I want to kind of like get us started here, I feel like Nick really provides us a great place for a lot of us to like relate on, with this song. When, he said, "I'm running through your garden screaming, 'Where the hell are you?'" I feel like we've all had that experience of running through the garden and screaming, "Where are you? Where are you?" Like
That's
that
me
that
when I'm gardening and I drop one of my earbuds out of my ear.
yeah.
I have been there.
It's a very relatable feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm glad that like the
Oh.
song really captures that. And is not ashamed to like, express that, moment of panic, that danger. What's it?
Danger
Danger, opportunity?
opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good
Um
callback.
yeah. I feel like actually there's like so much to say about the song, and I don't want to like direct the conversation, so I'll let y'all share, I guess, your first impressions or whatever it is on your mind that you want to talk about first.
This game.
Okay, I'll go. That wasn't hard. I loved this so much. It was like just it felt good. Like it's a definite journey. Very much an Alexis song. Uh, it was. It actually reminded me a lot of the Oli song that I brought
Yes,
for your birthday.
exactly.
Yeah. Just like the swells of emotion, the building, and that like crescendo at the end
Mhm.
with where everything's going on, and then it quiets down and you feel like soft and contemplative, and
Mhm.
um it was just so like cathartic, really, at
Mhm.
the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it starts out like kind of normal, like indie folk
Mhm.
sort of deal, and but it's just like, oh, there's like it keeps going, there's more. There's more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that vibe that it has just up until I think that big build where it becomes almost like a rock song for a split second there,
Mhm.
made me feel like it could be on a playlist with the oh no, I'm out of order.
Uh-huh.
The song I brought I think 2 weeks ago, three
Yeah.
weeks ago. Yeah, it felt like it even that the iMessage was the song that I brought
Mhm.
before.
Right.
But even that rhythm that starts to happen that sounds like drumsticks being hit on something reminded me of the texting rhythm in
Mm,
iMessage.
Mhm.
I was drawing a lot of, which is a huge compliment. I love that song, but I was drawing a lot of comparison there. I was like, these would be great on a playlist together, but it would
Mhm.
feel a little jarring to go from that
Yeah.
big heavy rock build to little
Uh-huh.
iMessage.
Yeah.
you talk about those
Um,
sounds. Sorry,
Go ahead.
but something that really impressed me was that just how many different instruments were pulled into this song. I
Mm-hmm.
pretty much lost count. And even more impressive that this is like a bedroom production.
Mhm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
how many instruments is he playing? And it's to the point where I'm just imagining like what would this look like if you're in the mixing and mastering phase? Like how many layers would that be? Like it
Right.
almost becomes like the same complexity as an EDM composition.
Mhm.
um
Mm-hmm.
but it's all acoustic instruments, and it's
Mhm.
wild to me.
Yeah.
And more on the sorry, the bedroom part. Like the very beginning, you hear that sort of like lo-fi fuzz, that I thought might be tape, but if this is like tape recording, but if it's bedroom production, that well, that could be a
Mhm.
plugin, but also
Right.
maybe like a really hot mic that like the gain is like a touch too high, but then it's so clear when the guitar
Yeah.
comes through and the vocals, and it's just like very precise, very present
Yeah.
recording. Like the quality of recording, despite like you I would have just assumed this was in a professional recording studio
Right.
Mm-hmm.
based on how clean it is.
Mhm.
And even just like the guitar when it starts out, like it's you kind of I kind of lose track of it when all the other stuff gets added in, but the guitar is in stereo, which means that they have a two
Mm-hmm.
mic setup. Like there's probably one near the hole and there's one near the top, and but
Mhm.
so that like as he's moving his hands over the guitar, like it moves stereo in your ears, and that was like
Mhm.
really kind of magical too.
Yeah.
On the number of instruments, looking at his Bandcamp page, it has all the credits for all of the studio musicians,
Mhm.
studio being, I guess, mostly his bedroom. Um, it says mostly in his bedroom. So uh, there are no other credits on this track. So I think it is all him.
Mhm.
It says vocals, guitars, keys, synths, banjo, sax, and programming are credited to Nick. And that is really incredible.
Yeah. So much stuff happening,
So much
instrumental
stuff.
wise. Yeah. Um, I trying to remember what you said, so I'm not forgetting something. Mm,
There were a few words.
yeah, at least a
Did you
few
hear
words.
them?
Yes. um, yeah, and what I was realizing with this listen through was how much similarities we have with this song and the songs that we listen to today. This song, referencing a garden, we just came from the Garden of Opinions. But not just that, um, Garden of Opinions, or Got You Right.
Did I get you right?
Did I get you right? Um, that song, what we noticed was like how there's like two halves of a song in a way, where we have like the
Mm-hmm.
vocal half and then the outro kind of like instrumentally thing. That's really cool. I feel like this song also has two halves in a way, and I think finding those two halves are pretty easy,
Mm-hmm.
just sound wise. But I think like I was able to find another distinction between these two halves rather than just like the sound palette is more um, acoustic and intimate sounding on the first half, which is the beginning half with like the instrumental, I mean the acoustic guitar, and then the second half is like that more moodier synth sort of thing going on that eventually builds into that rock sort of crescendo. Um, the two halves of this song, and I'm curious to hear like what your interpretation of this is. I feel like the first half, which is everything before the line "Did you ever hear a word?" So like
Mm-hmm.
everything before that, those verses, the God, I've forgotten how to pray. How am I supposed to love you? I know that I'm just some kid, and he's like, talking about being at the ocean and getting the seashells. Um, all that, all that of the first half of this song, when I listen to it and when I'm like reading these lyrics, the way these lyrics are written and the way that they're uh expressed and sung, it feels very much like the lyric writing of like worship songs.
Mm-hmm.
And this album has a very strong sort of religious theme of like uh Nick presumably, and their like struggles with religion, or spirituality. I don't want to like unpack that too deeply because I don't know them personally, so I don't know if like this is just for the purpose of the album or if this is autobiographical in a way. But like clearly, like every single song almost has some sort of reference to spirituality and in a conflict with it or a struggle with it and feeling like this aimlessness with it. Um, but when I look at that and I look at these lyrics, at least for the first half of the song, like I think about like contemporary Christian music, or the types of songs that people sing during worship. Like the way the lyrics are structured just feels very much like that style of lyric writing. And then the second half feels more of like an alternative, almost like emo sort of writing style, where it's like the verses are shorter, the sentences are shorter, they're less there's less prose in a way. Um, and I found that really fascinating. I was wondering if like maybe this is some sort of duality of like his position with like the spirituality that he's struggling with. Like one side of him is showing that rooted, grounded sense of like with his spirituality and worship that, or like his background with like worship music or the church and things like that, and the other half is his other half of his life that isn't that. So that's something that I kind of like picked up, and I was wondering if like, do either of you have like an interpretation of that at all?
I
Um,
do, but Jesse's raising his
uh,
hand, so
I think it's really interesting that you bring up worship music. I'm not an expert. I've never
Mhm.
attended the sort of church that has that sort of music, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very secular person right now.
Mm-hmm.
Is all I'll say about that. But I have heard some recent worship music, just in passing and through podcasts. But to me, while you say the lyrics at the beginning, the first half are very worship musicy, to me the soundscape of the last half is very much what I would associate with
Mm-hmm.
modern worship music, which I think is
Yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and I'll just like a tiny nitpick is like I think I would maybe break it into three sections.
Mm.
That like at least I'm not sure how it tracks with the lyrics, but in terms of the instrumentation, to me there was like the first part which is like very like folk indie, and then there's this like my one of my favorite moments in the song is there's this crackle that they bring
Mm.
in, and then there's like
Yeah.
a like heavy guitar chord, and
Yes.
then they bring in more instruments like that's like a middle third, and then you've got like the part towards the end where it just like builds and builds and builds and builds.
Right.
Yeah.
I hear that. I felt like rather than there's definitely that distinct line though.
Mm-hmm.
I think if it's part 1 and 2 or 2 and 3, that distinction is really clear. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
maybe the earlier distinction is more of like a sub part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Lyrically, though, for sure, it's split into two, and I definitely hear. I'm also a secular person, and I love that description as a human, but as a fellow human with Nick Weber, I should say. But I live in the South, and so I definitely hear that structure that you're talking about, Alexis, in that
Mm-hmm.
first half with it. It does feel like a sort of kumbaya, everybody sing along type
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
song that you might hear. I lost my train of thought.
Oh.
Oh, I was going to say, but I also think this song is maybe a journey through, it's like a summary
Mm-hmm.
of his journey, maybe
Right.
um, through his religion or spirituality that
Mm-hmm.
we're getting from the start, like, I don't know what I'm doing. And then it kind of
Mm-hmm.
lyrically, and I think it's shown in that build toward this more, dare I say, angsty sound that we get
Yeah.
to kind of toward the end.
Yeah.
Um, it started off on this, like, well, maybe it's just me. And then it's like sort of becoming frustration. And then it's like you're going through all the stages of grief in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And by the end, you're getting into this idea of like, maybe I don't want to pursue this goal
Mm-hmm.
of religion or spirituality that
Right.
I was struggling with at the start and have maybe come to the conclusion that it's not for me. And
Mm-hmm.
that's trying to put it nicely, but that's kind of what I got from it, and I think you hear that as it builds. It starts as this sort of sweet folky sound and then is
Mm-hmm.
building toward this like conclusion of being unhappy
Mm-hmm.
with the religion or
Mm.
whatever it is that he's seeking
Right.
for.
Right.
Mm-hmm. He or they. Do we know Nick's pronouns, or are we just
Don't.
okay? I'm gonna use both.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think I feel like I'm very similar on that wavelength with you on that feeling of that journey of this song. And um it I feel like it does like put into perspective the the way that he describes the music as
Mm-hmm.
post folk suburban psalms, and I feel like maybe that's it makes me feel like this is probably really close to being maybe the real folk blues, as a
Callback.
yeah, you know that's a very niche sort of departure of that genre of folk, and I feel like this is also doing something similar where
Mm-hmm.
it's an amalgamation of various things, and I feel like it lends itself well to what's happening musically and narratively with the lyrics as well.
I think it really does.
Mm.
And the lyrics are really straightforward. There was
Mm-hmm.
no question what Nick meant
Mm-hmm.
in pretty much any of these.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to where we started today with Jesse's song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
one more thing I'd like to add, non sequitur, is I really loved I love the crescendo like conclusion part at the end, but I also really loved what it did as it was like transitioning to like the very end of it, where there were like
Mm.
these chiptune arpeggios going on, and it reminded me very much of uh have you seen Perks of Being a Wallflower, the movie?
Not yet.
Okay, well, it's really I enjoy it a lot. But there's this one scene where they're going through like this tunnel, like, and there's like all these lights around them, and they're just like
Mm,
strobing over them, and like their arms are out and they're enjoying life and stuff.
mhm,
And there's a song called, I believe, Everything is Infinite, and it's just that
mm,
sort of feeling of like being infinite, and
mm,
like experiencing everything and like being alive, but then also like, all the lyrical content as well. It's kind of
yeah.
wrapped underneath that is interesting.
Mhm, yeah. And I think that that feeling in that sound palette that you're highlighting here happens several times throughout the album. So if that is something that is like you enjoy or that you enjoyed from this song, you know, there is assurance there that you will get to experience it again. And this album is definitely crafted as like this kind of overarching journey as well,
Mm.
story wise and sound palette wise. So I think it's like really natural to expect that what happens here on this song is kind of like just one part of the puzzle piece of the greater whole. Uh,
Is it like
so
the
yeah,
executive summary?
in a way, yeah, I think
Mm.
so.
He
It's like
wrote
the
an
forward of
executive
a
summary
book.
song. Yeah.
And I had something else in mind. What was it? Mm, man, there was something I wanted to mention. Hold on, I got this.
I got something if you need to
Uh,
fill space.
sure, go ahead. Thank you.
Okay, so another part that I really really enjoyed was there was this transitional part where like there was whispering, like it got quiet and
Mm-hmm.
there's like whispering in the background, and then the vocals went kind of lo-fi and fuzzy, and that kind of gave me like a contemplative feel, like, oh, they're thinking to themselves during these
Hmm.
lines,
Hmm.
um rather than like talking to another person.
Mm-hmm.
That's right after Did You Ever Hear a Word, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so. And
I
he's
took
like
the
saying,
whispering as the words that he was saying that he didn't feel like were being heard.
Mm. Oh, that's another, yeah,
"Hmm,
that's interesting.
hmm,
Yeah.
And
that's a
then
thought."
the like lo-fi vocals, like as a, to me it was like a portrayal of that angst.
Mm. That is making me very interested to re-examine this song. Um, I did remember the thing that I wanted to ask. Um, so something that stood out to me, and I feel like it kind of happens on this song, but I think as I went through the album, that feeling just kept getting more and more, and I was wondering if either of you um, felt this at all. There's something about Nick's singing and some moments of his like color of his voice and the way that they use it. Did either of you get this feeling that it sounded sort of reminiscent, or at least it reminded you of um, Conan Gray, like at all?
I like am not familiar enough with
No,
Okay,
Conan
I don't
Gray's
know.
voice for that to.
okay. I'm curious
Yeah.
if like other people that listen or
Audience, tell
watch,
us in the
yeah,
comments.
yeah. Because I feel like, man, it's like something that reminds me of like Conan Gray, and I was like, am I just crazy here?
Mm.
But yeah, like Conan Gray is definitely like blowing up. So I think like he's a voice that you know, people have a very clear memory of if you do listen to him. So I wonder if like people will be like, whoa, like that reminds me of Conan Gray as well. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm interested in hearing about that.
About the vocals, what I do have in my notes is that the vocal tone is very like delicate and
Mm-hmm.
expressive and soft and vulnerable, which like really
Mm-hmm.
adds to the lyrical content as well. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
gives you those feelings, even if you, because I don't think I was paying that much attention to the lyrics the first couple times I listened to this, and it was just,
Mm.
but I still felt the emotions of the song.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're
A
correct
Conan
then.
Gray comparison, I assume. You are
Oh no!
fuzz.
We hear you. Does the audience hear you? I don't know. Oh, I don't think Alexis is hearable to the stream right
Oh
now.
no. Alexis is lost. Do we need
Refresh
to wrap
maybe,
up the song?
Alexis.
Okay.
Technical difficult.
Tell a joke.
He's back.
Yay! No time for a
I'll
joke. Alexis, tell a joke.
tell a joke. Okay.
Quick one.
What did the dog say when it went to the shopping center?
Woof.
You're right. You get a cookie. Um, Tornado in a Jar says, I have left a chat, which they are uh,
You are back though.
unfortunately correct, but only momentarily.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
can't, I'm trying to pop out the thing. Pop out, picture in picture. Okay, there we go. Anyways, I did have something I wanted to bring up, which is, to kind of like bounce off of one of Jesse's points, which was, the mastering and the production and all that stuff. Being impressed that this is a mostly bedroom sort of thing. I did look into like the notes for who worked on this, and we have credited here Sam Rosen. I don't know. I apologize if I'm getting this uh, pronouncing this incorrectly, but Sam Rawson, and they have like their website linked for their work. And I looked through their work, the person who mastered this, and there's like a lot of like notable projects that this person has worked on. Um, this person has worked on um, an album, the debut album from Sydney Sprague, which is this really cool up and coming singer songwriter that I'm enjoying. He did engineering and production work for her.
Mm.
He did engineering and additional production for a band called Pool Kids, which is this amazing like pop punk, uh, aggressive sort of pop punk, like edgier pop punk sort of sound that reminds me of like first album of Paramore.
Mm.
So really great stuff that came out last year, and I really love that album. He also worked with Phoebe Bridgers with this like little side project that she did called Killer in the Sound, which is gorgeous. And he also worked with like really notable bands like Pedro the Lion, which was their recent album, and I'm going to see Pedro the Lion like 3 weeks from now, which I'm really excited for. And he's also worked with like Death Cab for Cutie. He did
Mm.
like some of like their acoustic EPs and things like that. So not just like one thing with Death Cab for Cutie, like he did like a handful of stuff with them. So if you are like liking what you're hearing of um just the production side of things with um this project from Nick, check out Sam who worked on this project, because looking through his portfolio, like he's worked with like a lot of different people in a lot of different genres, and it seems like this person really um, can capture the essence that you're looking for. So yeah, that was really really cool.
Although I think the mixing was all Nick, and then the mastering,
The mastering,
final step of the
right?
process, which is
Um,
important
It is
yeah,
and
very
is
important.
like helping
yeah,
a lot with the polish probably. Um, but
yeah.
And that also says a
cool.
lot to I think the how good Nick is that someone
Mhm.
who's that established is interested in working with them, you know?
Hmm.
Mhm.
Um
Hmm.
that like there's so much potential for their career in the future, just based on like how good this music is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Cool. I don't have anything else.
me either.
Anything else about the artist?
I mean, I don't really know a whole bunch because there's not a whole lot out there. But
Listen to his album.
yeah, listen to the album. Like the album's great. I would say, I would preface it with, just giving you a heads up. Um, it's a bit of a downer. It's a heavy album from start to finish. So you kind of have to be in a mood for it. I'm just someone that really likes this sort of music, so I can just chill out to this music, even though it's pretty heavy. The themes are pretty heavy. The sentiments are, not very bright, but they, I would say they're not like dark and pessimistic. So it's not like they're going to be like negative influences, but you know, it's more of like you feel like you have company in, kind of like angstier moments, which I think like leads to like really gorgeous, sounds and songs. So that's what you're gonna get here. A lot of folky stuff too. So if you like folk, just in general, you'll really enjoy this album. But I will just say I will preface it with that it's a bit of a downer though. So just have that expectation. And yeah, thank you for listening to his music, and thank you for listening to us ramble about his music. This was a lot of fun. That's a
Outro.
callback.
Outro.
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 Outro. We're so sophisticated.
Mm.
Can we get an anime closer?
An
I
anime closer.
kinda-
We had an anime intro. Can we get an anime outro?
Nani?
Dang. I'm not ready for
Oh no,
this.
the inspiration's gone.
And
I'm
most
trying to think of like the usual stuff that we say.
anime outros
It's
tend to
okay.
be a lot of like staring off into the distance while like sad music
Yeah.
plays and there's rain in the background.
Uh-huh.
Quick, play the next song on the album.
It is pretty somber. But yes, thank you for tuning in. We had a great time talking about music. If you like music, and if you want to hear more of us rambling about music, then please subscribe. And if you don't like that, I don't know why you would subscribe. But if you do like the things that we're doing, share it to other people. That really helps us out. And we would really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank
Like
you.
the bad dub of the 15-year-old boy character. I love it. Thank you.